In this video, I'd like to talk about why it's vital when it comes to your financial well-being to understand how much is enough. Welcome to What Happens Next. So welcome to the What Happens Next channel, the channel designed to help you navigate whatever's next in your life, particularly if you're in your 50s and 60s and thinking about that next chapter. Now we know from the work we do how difficult sometimes that transition is to whatever's next in your life. And what we want to do on the channel and on www.whathappensnext.live, does anybody use www anymore? I'm not sure. I am. We're going to explore some of the concepts that we think it's important for you to look at when you're thinking about what happens next. Now today I want to talk about financial well-being, and these should be right in my wheelhouse because as a chartered financial planner and as somebody who spends their days helping people work out whether they've got enough, this topic is a really interesting one to me. And if I haven't already introduced myself, apologies. My name's Chris Daems. I'm really lucky to run a chartered financial planning practice called Cervello. And I spend my days, as I say, helping people make the right strategic decisions when it comes to their money, work out what's enough so they can effectively live the lives they want, but also make the right tactical decisions. And that involves making sure we appreciate tax, the right investment and pensions products, and all of the stuff that you'd assume a financial advisor does. However, it always starts with a question. And that question about financial well-being is how much is enough? And in today's video, I want to talk about how to work that out, some of the starting points you might want to consider, and how to get to a point where you're closer to working out how much enough is for you. But before we start, if you are a fan of What Happens Next, but you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love for you to do so. We are really committed to making sure that we are exploring ideas, sharing concepts, and thinking about what happens next, not only from a financial well-being perspective, but to explore and identify all of the challenges that you might face when you're thinking about what happens next. Now, we've done loads of interviews in all areas of well-being. We're going to continue to do that, but by liking and subscribing, it makes sure that we can grow the channel and help more people. That's priority number one, but also get the guests that are really going to benefit you when it comes to thinking about what happens next. However, we don't want to do that in a bubble. We want to make sure that actually what we're doing is making videos that are pertinent to the challenges you're facing when you're thinking about what happens next in your life. So if there's, I'd check out all of the videos on the YouTube channel, but if there's something that you think we haven't covered yet that might be an issue or a challenge that we haven't explored but would be really insightful to build a video on, if I don't know, I'll find somebody who does, but we're really keen on helping you answer those questions. So as well as commenting about what you've found in this video that's useful, feel free to ask questions below or email us by using the contact form on the What Happens Next website, and we will do what we can to help in any way we can. So I wanted to start today's video by sharing one of my favourite stories, and it's about two of my favourite authors, Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller. Now Kurt and Joe were at the, I sound like I know them, I don't. Kurt and Joe were off to a party in New York, hosted by a very wealthy individual, a hedge fund manager, and somebody who had all the money in the world. And they walked into the party in this very opulent setting, and Kurt, who liked to tease his mate Joe, turned around and went, "Look at this, all of this stuff. Joe, you do realise that your best novel," which was Joseph Heller wrote Catch-22, by the way, "your best novel, you do realise that what this guy earned in a day is probably the same amount as what you earn from the entire earnings from your best book, Catch 22, the most lucrative book for you. And Joseph looked round, he went, Kurt, you're probably right. This guy probably did earn more yesterday than I ever earned from my book. But I've got one thing he'll never have. And Kurt's confused because this guy has clearly got everything. And he goes, well, what's that? And Joseph Heller just turned round and said, I know that I've got enough. Now, the financial concept of enough is an interesting one, because how much is enough and how do we identify what we need to live the life we want? And in this video, we'll explore some concepts that are going to help you get closer to that concept of enough. And the first step of working out how much is enough is really simple. It starts with a budget plan. It starts with sitting down with a spreadsheet or a template, and we can supply a template to you. Just email us, put in the comments below, or email us and we'll make sure we get one sent out to you that covers off both the essentials, how much you need to spend just to live your life, but also the nice to haves, travel, restaurants, eating out, galleries, whatever you really enjoy, and being really clear on what you need to spend to live the life you want, because that will give you a starting point then to build everything else in. So the big question is, how much are your essentials costing you every year? Heating, lighting, council tax, mortgage if you've got one, bills. How much are the essentials, and then how much are the nice to haves every year? Because effectively that will give you an amount of income you need to live the life you want. Now, I wouldn't get too precious about this number because it does change and it will change, but having a starting point to work out how much income you think you need based on your life today is where I'd start with. Once we've worked out how much income we need, now we need to work out how much income you've got. And that is income that you're not swapping for time at the minute. So if you turn around and say, I need £50,000 a year, but actually all of that money at the minute is coming from work, self-employment, whatever it may be, you're not financially independent. The important point about looking at where you are is only taking income that isn't dependent on your time. So that might include income from investments, income from pensions or annuities. It might include a business that runs without you that you receive an income from. It might be from a number of different places. But the important thing when thinking about financial independence and how much is enough is not to include income where you're swapping time for money, because clearly if you stop swapping that time, the money stops. So we know what our income need is. We know what our non-time dependent income is. All we need to do then is a super simple sum. All we need to do is take the income we need, take off what we know we're going to have coming in without swapping time for money, and that will give us a number. That will give us a number that effectively works out your gap. So once we've got the amount of income we want to live the life we want, and taken off the amount of income we know we're going to get, we've got that gap. The next step is to work out how much wealth we need to make sure we fill that gap. And there's a number of ways we can do this. Firstly, what we can do, if we want a really, really inaccurate but starting point figure, is use something called the 4% rule. And that's really easy to calculate. We take the income need, that gap number, and we divide it by 4%. Now that will give us a total level of wealth. So what that simple calculation doesn't do is respond to changes in lifestyle, changes in income, changes in the world, anything. It just gives you a starting point to work out how much might be enough. And the other thing it doesn't look at is all the other factors that might have an impact on your financial plan. The 4% rule is a bit rubbish about factor in inflation or investment growth or your needs or care or downsizing. It doesn't factor any of those things in. But what it does do is give you a ready reckoner starting point that you can start to think about what enough means for you. However, the other way that you can look at how much is enough is by working with a financial planner. A good quality financial planner should be able to build you a really specific, nuanced financial plan. We use tools called cash flow to make sure that all of the assumptions we need to take into account and actually the complexities of your life are all included in a robust financial plan. And to be frank, I put in a pretty picture that we can show you the implications of the actions that you take both now but also financially in the future. And what that does is give you peace of mind and comfort to make sure that you can achieve your goals. Now, what I want to do now is share some tips with you that are going to be really useful when you're thinking about how much is enough. Number one, realise that you can work out what your gap is, work out what your expenditure need is, and work out how much income you've got, but it's always going to be imperfect. The reality of any plan is that when it gets in the real world, things change. However, the process of thinking about your plan and the process of thinking about what you need to do to identify whatever gap you've got and taking positive action towards closing that gap is the important thing. The second thing I'd always recommend you do is plan for the best but protect for the worst. So when you're working out how much enough is for you, look at what could go right, but definitely look at what could go wrong and make sure that you're taking action to fill that gap if you were, for example, unable to work due to ill health for the next few years, or what would happen to your family if you passed. The third thing is understand that plans change, and I've touched on this in number one. Plans are imperfect by nature. Planning is really important, but plans do change. So what you want to be doing is working out what your number is, how much you need to make sure that you're financially independent, but understand that you probably need to revisit that number and evolve your plan as time goes on. And my fourth recommendation is to get help when you need it. Often clients who come to me want one thing. They want to sleep better at night knowing that they've got a professional on their side. And I'm sure that some of you are perfectly able to work this stuff out on your own, but getting help and making sure that actually you've got a professional partner to help you with your financial well-being is fundamentally important for some. It won't be right for everybody, but fundamentally important for some. It's not a weakness to ask for help when it comes to this sort of stuff. It's not something that you should be able to do. It's something that actually getting help is a good thing if you feel you need it. So that's how we work out how much is enough. We get to that Joseph Heller ideal of not just accumulating wealth for wealth's sake, but we actually think about what meaning money has to our lives and living the lives we want using the money we've got. Hopefully that was useful. Feel free to like and subscribe, as I said earlier in the video, if this is useful, but also let us know whatever we can do to share content that's going to help you navigate what happens next. And I'll look forward to speaking to you again on the next video. Have a lovely day.